have a better view, and in order to have a better opportunity to do business in Vietnam. And we already know that all the company right now has been through for the last few months a very struggling situation, and we hope that you and your family are safe and healthy. And despite that, this situation is very hard, but we are very confident that they will over very soon, and our company and the Vietnamese company that doing business in Vietnam will recover fastly, and we can grow with more prosperous and have a better business. As you already know that when it seems like we hope that you can hear us clearly, hopefully.
Yes, we can.
Yes, because we received some. Okay, great, thank you. And as you already know that despite this, for the last 2 years, the pandemic has been striking many industry, many world economy. However, there are still some industry that, let's say, not heavily influenced by the pandemic, and one of those is healthcare and medical device industry. Obviously, more than ever, we understand the importance of the healthcare industry and how a well-equipped medical device hospitality structure or the hospital can help us to take care better of our beloved one. And today, and besides this, the Vietnamese economy for medical device and healthcare industry is one of the fastest growing in Southeast Asia for the last 10 years. And it's very potential because Vietnam within 2050 will be among the top 15 most popular country around the world. So, and also have one of the top 10, among the biggest middle class in Southeast Asia, a very potential market. And despite that, right now, the Vietnamese economy have a young population, but it's also aging very fastly, and therefore healthcare become more and more important. So not to take you longer, I'd like to introduce to you our speaker today, Mr. Filippo Bortoletti. He's a key speaker from Dezan Shira, also company member of ICHAM. Dezan Shira is a consultancy firm that has been operating in Asia for let's say more than a decade, and it's very in Vietnam, in Singapore, and in many other countries in Southeast Asia, also in India and China. They have a very insightful knowledge about the market. And today, Mr. Filippo Bortoletti will share with us his knowledge about the healthcare and medical device industry in Vietnam and the business opportunity that the company from Europe, from abroad, from Italy, or from anywhere elsewhere can, let's say, after the pandemic, can hopefully to have here in Vietnam. And during the presentation, where if you have any question, please raise directly in the chat section, and we will have you to in the Q&A question. We'll try to provide you all the information as much as possible, but if in case we don't have the information during the Q&A session, we'll try to answer you via email later after the webinar. So thank you very much for joining us again, and Filippo, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Hai, for the kind introduction. Also, to prepare the audience to what is the topic of today, that are opportunities and challenges also as well in the medical devices industry in Vietnam. So allow me a few seconds to share my screen. All right. So today I structure my presentation into 5 small chapters. At first, I will provide you with a general overview of the healthcare industry, with a focus, of course, on the medical devices. In the second part, I will talk about the emerging opportunities in the healthcare industry, and I will analyze what are the main macroeconomic trend influencing the healthcare industry and specifically the medical devices industry, but not only. I will also talk about local trends, the digitalization process that is happening in Vietnam, and then I will talk in the next chapter about the EVFTA between, of course, European Union and Vietnam, and what are the key advantages that the EVFTA brings to the medical devices export to Vietnam. In the fourth section, I will talk briefly about market barriers, if any, and then main entry strategies at your disposal to penetrate the market. And in the end, I will have a small digression on how our company, Dezan Shira Associates, can help you to navigate the current legal framework and operate your business in Vietnam. So without further ado, let's start. And about the healthcare industry, as you can see, the healthcare encompasses different segments. There are healthcare service facilities, pharmaceutical products, and of course, medical devices and equipment. That is what we are focusing more today. Overall, the industry had an estimated turnover of over $17 billion in 2018, which is remarkable, and with a forecasted double-digit growth across all the market segment. That means also in the medical devices and equipment. What are the main pros, the main advantages of selling in Vietnam or investing in Vietnam in this kind of industry? Well, you can benefit from a very, very favorable demographic structure. The population is aging very fast since 2017. There is a rising income per capita, so people are becoming richer compared like to 1995, where the GDP per capita of the population was less than $300. Now in 2020, according to the World Bank, we surpassed $2,700, which is incredible. And of course, is a population that is increasingly urbanized, so can be better tackled by your products, but also the facilities like hospital, clinics, etc., are easier to reach, so it's good. There are also some cons, of course. I mentioned counterfeit drugs, but this is not related to the medical devices and equipment, but mostly on the pharmaceutical products, but is worth noting anyway. And the other main difficulty is the very complex regulation in the sector, but we will see it later on. So before diving into the specific medical devices industry, I think it's worth to understand first how the healthcare system in Vietnam is structured, because then they will be the main stakeholders and end user of the medical devices and equipment anyway. So it's better for you to understand how it's structured. So we have, of course, the public system and the private system. The public health organization accommodate almost all the Vietnamese patients, accounts for around 96% of the total beds, according to the statistic of 2017. Of course, it's likely that this percentage went down a bit because private health organizations are kind of developing quite fast. Here in Vietnam, in 2017, accounted only for 4% of the market share, let's say, okay, of the patients. Let's say that why the private sector is developing so much, because the public structure are a bit overcrowded. That's why we see an increasing number of private clinics and hospitals, and also the government recognize the need of the whole healthcare system of having the private investors in the game, right? So he laid out some favorable tax incentives for companies investing into healthcare service provisions, in the form of discounted corporate income tax rate that is like discounted at 0%, so tax holiday 100% for the first 4 years, and then the successive 9 years at 50% of the standard rate. The standard rate is 20%, by the way. Anyway, it's important to understand the structure because now we talk about who are the main end users for your product. So we can classify them in 4 main categories. First, we have like the public hospitals, clinics, etc., that they have the funding from the government, and therefore they have large budgets and can of course purchase very advanced and expensive equipment. Then we have foreign organizations or joint ventures between foreign and locals. And in this case, they also look for cutting-edge technology instruments. But in this case, compared to the first group that can look everywhere for buying those devices, in this case, they mainly rely on products coming from the country of origin of the foreign investor. Then we have the local private clinic and hospitals that are the most promising segment, in my opinion, as right now they have the need of catching up with the local public hospitals, clinics, and also they have the competition coming from the foreign hospitals, etc. And so they are in the need of updating and developing both their equipment and also facilities, and therefore can be a good and appealing market for the medical devices. And in the end, we have like medical institutions and universities that in this case are more prone to purchase even experimental equipment that can be then a good way to test the market and better understand what will be the response for a large scale commercialization of your products. That said, if we talk about the medical device industry, first I would like to quote the Ministry of Health that said once that the medical devices manufacturers in Vietnam are not able to meet the local demand, and therefore about 90% of the medical devices and equipment used in the healthcare is imported. Of course, this is something that should be contextualized. I think that didn't consider disposable, such as hospital beds, etc., which Vietnam is able to produce and also is a net exporter. Anyway, if we look at the market share of medical equipment sorted by application, we see that at the top, with 29.12%, there was orthopedic and prosthetic material, followed by paraclinical equipment, then diagnostic imaging equipment, emergency medical equipment, and in the end, operation room equipment. And then we have a multitude of other kind of applications that are in the others, but that don't reach a significant amount of market share. If we look instead at the share of medical equipment sorted by material, we see that the main are textile products, followed by electronic products. Then we have, of course, plastic products, rubber products, etc. If we go a bit deeper and we look at the import and export, we see, of course, that in the recent years, the compound annual growth rate of the export is superior compared to the import. This is because a lot of companies, a lot of foreign companies also recently invested in Vietnam and started also exporting their manufacturing outputs. And therefore, this is the main reason. That said, even if Vietnam is a net exporter, this doesn't mean that what the Ministry of Health said is wrong. It just needs to be contextualized. So like if we talk about advanced high technology equipment such as X-rays, radiation instrument, ultrasonic scanning, magnetic resonance as imported for the vast majority. And the next slide, of course, helped me to substantiate this sentence, because as you can see, if we look at the import of the medical devices by product, X-rays and radiation instruments are some of the most imported products also by value. And you can see that the portion, the market share in this case is increasing year by year. On the other hand, if we look at the main exported products, we see that the plastic products that were in 2015 the top product exported now have been replaced by electromedical instruments and appliances. This is also because there was a lot of investment in Vietnam. The industry is developing quite fast, and so it makes sense that the local manufacturing industry kind of move up in the value chain and is able to manufacture products with high technology content and with higher markups as well. And this trend is likely to continue, by the way. If we look at the main suppliers in the Vietnam market, the vast majority come from Europe with the 28% unexpectedly, followed by United States, Japan, China, and South Korea. What means is this means that the market still recognized the quality of the made in European Union in this case. Therefore, is very possible for European businesses to really penetrate the market, provided that they have the right contacts and the right network in the country to support their efforts, of course. If we look instead at the export of medical devices, Japan is the first country that receive the products made in Vietnam, followed by the European Union, again with 22%, and then China, United States, and ASEAN countries. This gives you an idea also about the dimension of the market. And then I would like to move forward talking about what are the main trends that are characterizing this specific industry. I classify them into four different categories, and I will talk about three of them in this paragraph, while I will talk about the EVFTA in the following paragraph. About like the major trends, we see a high economic growth, rising income per capita, as I mentioned before, increasingly urban population, and a fast aging population. Also, I already mentioned the local production of both pharmaceuticals, actually, and medical equipment is not able to meet the local demand. There is also a digitalization process currently ongoing. And we have also the EVFTA that reduce the non-tariff barriers and overall complexity of doing business in Vietnam on paper. Because in practice, we see that the regulatory framework has yet to align with the prescription of the EVFTA, and therefore there is still not much clarity about the procedure, but we will talk about this later. And let's look about the local macroeconomic trends instead. So we see economic growth is the first, of course. Vietnam is one of the fastest growing countries in Asia, and with an estimated growth of 4.8% in 2021, according to the World Bank, notwithstanding this fourth outbreak that is going on since forever, apparently, since April, if I remember correctly. Also, over the last 2 decades, Vietnam population expanded consistently from 72 million people in 1995 to over 98 million people in 2021, according to statistics. And also, as I mentioned before, the rising income per capita increased by 10 times in the last 25 years, which is remarkable. We have also an urbanization process that is among the fastest among the Asian region. Indeed, the urban areas, according to the World Bank, have developed at 2.8% per year. And now the new urban middle class can influence the community behaviors and consumption patterns with positive effect, of course, for the demand of healthcare services. And these directly impact, of course, the sales of medical devices as well. We have then an aging population. As I mentioned before, Vietnam population officially entered in a so-called aging phase in 2017, and is among the most rapidly aging countries worldwide. Apart from this, we have also local market trends. And if I focus like on the medical devices, as I mentioned, that a local producer can only supply basic material such as scissors, rubber health products, hospital beds, and other disposables. If we look at the healthcare also, these can be good to understand also for what kind of products you should try to market here. According to medical experts, 10% of Vietnamese people under the age of 40 suffer the Parkinson disease. That means about 85,000 people statistically. Then liver cancer is also one of the leading causes of cancer death in Vietnam, killing more people than the traffic accidents. And additionally, hepatitis, cirrhosis, disorders of the pancreas are also challenges as well in the healthcare sector here in Vietnam. Apart from this, we have a digitalization process that encompasses three different trends, let's say. The first, the smart hospitals, as hospitals are now applying new techniques and technologies such as artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, big data, to create information management systems and powerful applications. Then we have the health ID. According to the plan of the government, each Vietnamese citizen will be issued with a unique health ID card. And these ID cards will be able to create and connect health reports for patients nationwide. And then also we have the e-prescription that there was a pilot project in Ha Tinh and Hoang hospitals. And this has ended. All the medical prescription written in two hospitals have been integrated into the national e-prescription system. And as it says now, we have a nationwide e-prescription system. So this just recently in 2021 became nationwide instead of being just in two hospitals, which is also a remarkable feat. Another trend, of course, that is relevant is what comes from the implementation of the AVSD and what are the effects in the export of medical devices to Vietnam. Well, as you can see from this table, there isn't like a big advantage in terms of tariff reduction because they were already low. The government here really recognized that Vietnam really need the support from foreign suppliers to meet the local demand for healthcare devices and equipment, and therefore the tariffs are already very low. Just pay attention that if you want this to be qualified as made in EU, you must possess a proof of origin that must be submitted to Vietnamese custom authorities. But the most important breakthrough about the AVFTA is the reduction of non-trade barriers for the healthcare industry in general. Actually, here I just quote what I think are the two main ones. One is related to the IPR, and indeed, according to the AVFTA prescriptions, intellectual property rights will be intensified, making difficult for patent protected products to become, in this case, pharmaceuticals, to become generic drugs. This is also extended to pharmaceuticals that don't come from EU. And then the most important thing is simplified procedures, as Vietnam will align with international standards. And it means that the products that are already certified inside the EU will not require additional testing and certification in Vietnam and this will reduce a lot the time to market. So these are the main opportunities. So if you think that your Vietnam fits for you as a market, of course, the information that I provide you is just a brief. But what I think you should do next step should be do a feasibility study, market assessment to understand what are the competitors in the market, the main products in the market, what is hot to sell, etc. And these, of course, our firm, Dezan Shira Associates, can help. We have a strong business intelligence department that can support you. Anyway, once you decide that Vietnam is a good place for you, for your products, then you have to decide how to penetrate the market. And here I talk not about relying on just a distributor and importer, but to have a physical presence in Vietnam. So you can invest in Vietnam as a form of a representative office for promotion, marketing, and brand awareness activities. You can also invest in a form of trading company and enjoy the preferential tariffs not only under the VFTA but also other free trade agreements, because Vietnam is interconnected almost worldwide and therefore can be a really good logistic hub for you to make a transit the components here and then maybe ship them elsewhere. And otherwise, you can decide to operate a manufacturing company in Vietnam. So, as I mentioned, the purpose of establishing a representative office is having a non-separate legal entity. That means that parent company still bears the liability to use for market research and promotion purposes. It's very important actually to have a local presence in the market and demonstrate the commitment to the market, as it is really appreciated by local entrepreneurs. And in this case, the representative office constitutes a very low-cost solution that can be like the first step to further investment later on, just to test the market. Please mind that the representative office cannot generate revenues, but therefore just marketing and promotion activities, basically. This slide highlights also the procedure for establishing the representative office. After obtaining the operation license that takes 15 working days, the representative office is legally registered in Vietnam. Of course, there are other steps that are necessary in order to be fully operational, but having a representative office ready, it takes only 15 working days. So it's not so much. Otherwise, you can decide to establish a trading company. And in this case, the procedure takes a bit more time. You need to obtain an investment license first that takes up to 45 working days, depending on the industry. In this case, for the medical devices, based on my experience, it takes normally 1 month. Then you have to obtain the working days, and after obtaining that, your company, trading company, will be legally registered in Vietnam. Of course, you still need to import the medical devices. So related to this, currently we are under a transitional regulation that will be valid until the end of the year. And starting from 2022, there will be a lot of simplifications. So let me just go through it. So these are the steps that are necessary right now to be able to import your products in Vietnam. So you have first to classify the medical devices, then to register the medical devices and obtain the import license. So according to the new regulation that will come into force in 2022, then you won't need an import license for the already registered products, the ones in step 2. And so after step 2, when you register your medical devices, you will also obtain a market authorization license to import your products in Vietnam. Okay. Then you can also decide to manufacture directly in Vietnam. In this case, there are no restrictions on foreign ownership. So you can have 100% owned enterprise, or you can have multiple shareholders that are all foreigner, or you can have a joint venture with local partners. And in the end, it is up to you. Usually, a joint venture or an M&A are more effective because you still can inherit somehow the contacts of the local partner, and so these can really simplify also the obtaining all the registrations, etc., because they are already well versed in dealing with that. Otherwise, you can still establish a fully owned company, but then in this case, I would advise to rely on professional in the fields that can help you to navigate the legal framework better to avoid any surprise. So this ends my presentation. And how can we help? So as I mentioned just before in the introduction, we are a Pan-Asian multidisciplinary consulting firm. We have more than 300 professionals spread amongst more than 25 offices, mainly in Asia Pacific. Our main market in China, but in Vietnam, in this case, we have 3 offices, one in Ho Chi Minh City, one in Hanoi, where I'm based, and one in Da Nang. What we can do is offering you support from the pre-investing phase. So, for example, as I mentioned, if you need like feasibility studies, market studies, or if you need like business matching services, we can also support you in dealing with the administrative procedures to incorporate an entity in Vietnam, and we can also support for the ongoing compliance. So I would like to thank you for being still here until now, and I think that I can end now my presentation, and I will leave the floor to Mr. Hai. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Filippo. Thank you very much for your very insightful presentation. Obviously, as we all know, that the medical device industry and healthcare industry in Vietnam is the huge industry, and there's so many aspects that we can talk about, and we can talk in detail. And so, if you don't mind, I would move immediately to the Q&A part. Because we are receiving quite a good number of questions as always. We are very glad that because it shows the interest of the audience toward the webinar that we organize. And also, I'd like also to have a very brief introduction about ICHAM and about the what is the Italian Chamber of Commerce, what we do. Sorry, it's raining quite hot here, so we're hearing some noise. The Italian Chamber of Commerce is a representative of the Italian business community in Vietnam, and also we belong to the network of 76 Italian Chamber of Commerce worldwide. And that's also the reason why we are one of our first and most important one is providing support and services to the Italian company and non-Italian company as well to do business in Vietnam and to countries where we operate. And our many support from the market entry, most of all is the market entry services, B2B and trade mission, and organizing webinar like this. So in order for the company and business entrepreneur to get in touch with the expert of the industry, like for example, in this case, we have Filippo from Dezan Shira. And one of the things that as our system of the Italian Chamber of Commerce in Asia has been organizing for the last 4 years, one platform is very important for the European manufacturer that has not been yet approaching to the Vietnamese and Asia market, which is we organizing, let's say, the pharmacy made in Italy, where from one side is 2 days, 48 hours fully immersion of B2B meeting. And from one side, we have the Italian manufacturer that come into Hanoi. And from other sides, we have the most important buyer from 6 to 7 countries from all Asia to come to Vietnam to do the B2B meeting. And this also the very high-end buyer that has been distributing the medical device product or pharmaceutical product in the market for many long years, like from Japan, Korea, Philippines, Malaysia, Singapore, India, China, and Vietnam, of course. So we're here to help, and I'm sure that both ICHAM and Dezan Shira can really help you to provide you support and going along with you on your business path in Vietnam. And our goal is to give you the best opportunity to do business. So here we are for the Q&A. I would start right now with the first one from Mr. Tan Peter Ching Lu. I'm very sorry for my pronunciation. If in case I pronounced badly the name of the audience, please forgive me. His question is, thanks for sharing the majority if the data are pre-COVID. So how do you see this will change post-COVID, Filippo?
So I think that actually COVID make us all more sensible about health, and we are all more careful, and also the government will be more careful as well, because it represents the will and the sentiments of the population. Therefore, even if right now, of course, everything is slowing down due to COVID, because of course the logistic network is kind of overloaded right now, and also the public budget has been kind of drained by the vaccines and also the prevention measures. I think that the trend will continue. Actually, it will take some time maybe to recover, maybe a few months, but I do believe that after this COVID pandemic ends, once the majority of the population here in Vietnam is vaccinated, that there won't be this burden on the Vietnamese budget of buying those vaccines, and therefore, like, the public sector will sure continue to invest in healthcare, because now after COVID will be even more important, in my opinion, because the importance of healthcare is also connected to the need of the people, right? We see it also like in the consumption patterns during the COVID pandemic, like a lot of businesses that are thriving are the ones that are related to healthcare, right? That sell, like, I don't know, soaps, like cosmetic products, etc. Those are the products that are thriving the most. Therefore, I think that this is true also for medical devices indirectly, because I do believe that the healthcare establishment providing healthcare services will be very keen to continuously update their equipment and facilities.
Yes, and I'd like also to add that, as you know, regarding the healthcare and medical industry, is a medium and long-term business in many countries around the world, and it's the same factory for Vietnam, for Vietnamese markets. So it's very important that there's one message that we have been always trying to deliver to the foreign company that want to do business in Vietnam, not only in healthcare industry, but also in other one that from one side you have a fast-growing, young and very potential market that can be very rewardable within 4, 5, or 10 years. But again, from other sides, the company need to give a commitment, constant and consistent commitment of their company towards the local markets, because it's not a market that you can have the immediately, let's say, benefit or result for business. It's required at least 2 or 3 years to create, to go, and to sustain, to make your business become more sustainable. So the commitment is very important. Yes, we move to the next one. Any idea for the growth of clinical lab in Vietnam from GBO?
Of medical?
Clinical lab.
Clinical. Well, I guess that the trend is likely to continue. You know, it is not that it will not continue. Well, what we saw before COVID was a market that was growing double-digit. This will continue also after COVID, and it is likely that it will continue even faster, probably for the short term. Then, of course, we'll stabilize and we'll meet the forecast likely. What I want to say is that you cannot expect that after COVID, like, there will be the boom for medical devices or any product in general. There will be a time where, of course, we will be a period of down still. Okay, so the organization, etc., will have first to adapt their structure to the new normal that will be. They're already doing that, but it will take then some time to evaluate the products. Usually you compete in biddings, right? So it takes time in the end to sell, especially in the public sector. So don't expect like that it will come everything at once. And as far as clinic app, I do think that it's possible that they will become popular, to be honest, because for everything we find application nowadays. And the trend of digitalization also showed that, right? Sharing data, being all connected, and the app serve exactly that purpose. I mean, if I was like a developer of such application, I wouldn't hesitate to get in touch with the Ministry of Health and understand how my app can fit with their plan and with their database. So yeah, absolutely, I'm very positive.
Yeah, let's go to something a little bit more in detail. We have a question from Lissy. How is the market overview for orthopedic, surgical instrument, and surgical implant in Vietnam?
So specifically for those, well, it's hard to say. It's hard to say, to be honest. I would need to do a specific research for that. For me, it's very hard to tell you like what is the current state of that specific market. What I can say is a general consideration, and is that considering that Vietnam is an aging population, and considering also the increasing urbanization of the population, the diffusion of a certain kind of like a white collar jobs, like more. I think that those products will be more and more appealing to the market simply because there will be the need, more or less, because if you sit all day at your desk, you will need to have those sort of devices to take care of your health and your back.
Yes. Because as I already mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, that every time when we receive the question that we are not, that we don't have enough time to reply to all those questions listed, and also the question that we don't have immediately the answer, we're very gladly to, together with the speaker, the expert of the webinar, to provide you later on, let's say, hopefully a successful and satisfactory answer for your question via email. The next one we have is what difficulties facing businesses in the field of medical device industry in Vietnam? What should they do to overcome those difficulties from Vietnam Economic Times?
So the main difficulty that applies overall, not only in COVID period, because right now I could talk about, for example, shipping the products is very difficult, but overall, the most relevant barrier is the complexity of the legal framework, to be honest. the law is not really clear. There are transitional regulations, etc. I also saw a question, for example, here that they say, to my knowledge, Vietnamese local medical device distributor required in Vietnam to sell because the foreign manufacturer cannot sell directly in Vietnam. This is not true, because with a certificate of free sale that you can sell also in Vietnam. Actually, your consideration applies to the pharmaceutical business. There you need the local distributor, but not in the medical devices. And yeah, so I think that in any case, there will be much opportunities, to be honest. The only problem navigating this legal framework is that you cannot do it alone. To be honest, you need either to rely, as I said, you do an M&A, you do a joint venture, so you have a local partner that already understands the rule of the game. Otherwise, and maybe anyway, you should rely on local experts that have already faced those problems, that knows what the procedures, know the officers. It's just better to rely on local expertise on the ground that can support you, to be honest.
Yeah, that's right. Because this industry is a very consuming time, and as Filippo has already previously mentioned, that we also believe that you should do the business with a local partner, or if you decided to do it on your own, at least among your staff should have a very experienced Vietnamese staff in this industry that can help you to overcome this kind of difficulty, because it requires knowledge, it requires contact, and to work with the local authority. Yes, the next question we have is from Mr. CanCham Hoang. May I feel the approval procedure is the most difficult? Vietnamese government should simplify own procedure and set up one-stop center for the process. What do you think?
Absolutely right. I also agree with that statement. I think that in any case, Vietnam recently is simplifying a lot, not only in the registration of the medical devices. Like I said, for example, that the import license will not be necessary anymore. So the products just need to be registered and they obtain the market authorization license from 2022. If, of course, the current transitional measures are not prorogated. But yeah, I think that they are already trying to simplify. Of course, it's not enough, but they are doing a lot of efforts. A lot of procedures now can be done online, and this is a plus. So they are moving in the right direction, in my opinion, on this side. Still, there are bottlenecks, of course, but once you understand like what are the requirements, etc., it takes some time. There are difficulties in communication, maybe is normal, because you are investing in a foreign country. They have a different mentality somehow. But that's why I told at the beginning is important to have people on the ground with the right contacts.
Yes, and the next question is, what are the must-have licenses in order to import medical device to Vietnam from foreign country?
What are, sorry?
The must-have licenses.
To import the medical devices to Vietnam? No, you just need to classify the medical devices. Then you need to register them. Can be class A, B, C, D, depending on the risk. And then actually right now, you need to obtain an import license, okay? It takes between 25 and 60 working days, the whole procedure for obtaining the import license. After that, when starting from 2022, in theory, you won't need an import license anymore if you register your products in Vietnam. What I want to say is that one thing is importing, another thing is selling. So you will need also the certificate of free sale in Vietnam to sell in Vietnam. But for importing, you just need from 2022, you just need to classify and register the products. Then you will obtain the authorization to market your products.
Yes, we have a very interesting question about what is the likelihood on the extension of Decree number 3 on the validity of import license?
Yeah, it's an interesting question indeed. Well, I don't have the crystal ball, but I can base on history. It's very likely that that it will be extended, but I don't know for how long. But I can only stick with what we know right now. Right now, starting from 2022, the new regulation apply. But who knows? To be honest, who knows? Because we have other examples that they procrastinated a lot the implementation of the law simply because they lack a comprehensive legal framework for deploying the new regulation. That's it. So who knows? Yeah, probably it's very likely actually that that will be postponed, the implementation of the new regulation, but I have no idea, to be honest.
Yes. Are there any common guideline for hemodynamic monitoring? I'm not sure if I pronounced the word correctly.
No, I understand, but to be honest, I have no idea. I have no idea if there is something specific. I would have to verify, to be honest. On top of my mind, I don't know. It's too specific. Yes.
Let's move to the next one. Do you see a market for additive manufacturing service bureau in Vietnam?
For additives, for
yes.
What?
The question from Chris Martin. Do you see? Do you see a market for additive manufacturing service in Vietnam?
Yes, I think so. There is already a market, to be honest. There is already a market for the additives. Of course, it's completely different from manufacturing medical devices. There are other ministries that are competent in the subject. So yes, of course, it's possible. Of course, it's possible, and is already there. Is already there. But is completely different. As if I understood correctly, it's completely different from like medical devices. It's still related to the health, though.
Yes. Yeah. The next one we have is are most the procurement procedure in government hospital done through tender?
Yes. There is a bidding process. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. So the next one is when do you think the medical device market will return to pre-COVID level?
As soon as the pandemic ends, I guess, like 2 months after the pandemic ends, probably, because it needs some time to recover. But yeah, it's very likely extremely soon, extremely soon. I would say, if I have to give an estimate, but I hope it doesn't bite me back, considering that maybe Vietnam will end distributing the vaccines, I don't know, by the end of 2022, more or less. We won't have any more issues than, let's say, in 2023.
Yeah. What is your view about purchasing power of the private sector as it's growing although from the low base?
So, purchasing power or purchasing the energy. So if the purchasing power, so the power to purchase things, okay, in this case, I don't think is declining. Sure, I mentioned that the private sector is developing quite fast, and is surely a thing, but still, I mean, the vast majority of the market shares are held by the public sector. I mean, the most patients are there, and also consider that there is this traditional thought among local population, especially like in the countryside, that the national hospital is the best. So they will likely go there anyway. So I see that the purchasing power there won't be affected too much. The only thing that matters for the suppliers of medical devices is that you don't have only that channel. You have different channels you can rely on that maybe are even easier at the beginning to tackle because you don't have to undergo all the bidding process.
Yes, what are main standard inquiry for FDI manufacturer in medical industry to choose the industrial park? So, and whereas in Vietnam, they would like to put their business in the north, middle, south of Vietnam?
Well, so healthcare establishments are concentrated in the main cities. Okay, so Hanoi, Ho Chi Minh City mainly. The private establishment, even more than that, you can find basically only in the big tier 1 or tier 2 cities. So where to locate your investment? Close to them. For example, if you are a manufacturer inside open industrial zone, of course, to have the tax benefits, etc., and the layer of protection of the developer. But I won't set a preference like between north and south. It basically depends on who you are targeting. I think that from my experience, I see more foreign direct investment in the medical devices industry going towards the south of Vietnam at first, as it is considered more appealing. But also the north of Vietnam can be a choice. I think so. That there should be no problem even investing there. Still, if I would have to choose, I would choose to invest in the south first. Even like if you need at the beginning a simple structure like a representative office, I would choose Ho Chi Minh City to start, for sure.
Yes, to my knowledge, the Vietnamese local medical device distributor are required in Vietnam to sell in Vietnam. So for example, if an FDI company in Vietnam cannot do this, if
no,
so, can a foreign, it's wrong?
It's wrong, yeah. Medical devices can be sold directly by foreign companies that you just need a certificate of free sale. This consideration, as I mentioned before, is valid for pharmaceutical products. There you need a distributor, but for medical devices, no, you can sell directly, even as a foreign company.
Great. So the next one we have is the list is quite long. What is difficulties to set up private hospital in Vietnam?
Well, first you have capital requirements that are kind of high. So you need to have the pocket full. And to be honest, then you will need that there should be the need, okay, for the hospital to be established. It is the same concept, okay, as the shopping malls in these cases, healthcare establishments, okay, in a certain area. So if there are like, I don't know, 1,000 hospitals already, you won't be able to, but it won't be convenient either because you won't have patients, or I mean, it will be very competitive. So there are those kind of consideration, then the capital requirements consideration. Then of course there are other requirements. You should have the facilities that are meeting the requirements promulgated by the law. you should have the doctors, etc. You should have a mechanism for also store the information about your patients. You should integrate your information system with the national system for, like, for example, the prescriptions, etc. So it takes time, to be honest. It's not impossible, but it takes time. It takes a lot of time.
Yeah, and also as for the Vietnamese citizen to go to the private hospital to for the treatment, is also very important. The quality of doctor and medical staff, and that's the reason why many private hospital here, even it's the foreign one or the local one, they're always working with the high end and very experienced doctor in order to, you know, obtain to be more appealing and give more guarantee for the patient in order to come to the hospital.
Yeah.
Yes. The next one is, let's move. I believe for the question that's already have the answer during the presentation of Filippo, I would like not to ask again. So which segment would receive the investment from investor and why, or likely receive the investment from investor and why in medical device?
Well, I think that the question is formulated not really in a good way, simply because, of course, the vast majority of investment will be received by manufacturing establishments or hospitals, right? Followed by trading and then representative offices. So I'm not sure if this was the question, or if the question was on the kind of application, but in that case it depends, because like a manufacturer can decide to produce one certain product, or can decide to produce more than one and set up different lines, or can just do the assembling. It depends, to be honest. It's not easy to say. But I would say that the ones that would receive the most investment would be the ones that require the most capital and technology. So I'm thinking about diagnostic equipment and such. But I don't think there is the incentive of investing in such establishments, simply because it's very costly to set up a factory producing this kind of products. This is the kind of paradox of that is peculiar of Vietnam, but also other countries. I mean, there is no incentive for foreign producers to establish certain kind of manufacturing facilities, simply because the cost is super high. The cost is super high. The machinery costs a lot, so that there is really no return. I mean, not in the short period of time. And consider that in Vietnam, you don't even own the land. There are no conditions for certain investments, in my opinion. But then I may be wrong. Maybe some will invest. But for those kind of products, they usually require a lot of capital investment, and therefore you won't see them in Vietnam. There is a reason why they produce hospital beds, etc. Or if they do, like, they can do assembling or something like that. But for capital intensive processes, I would say no.
Yeah, and before we already talked about the extension of decree number 3. So what about the extension of decree number 36?
But it's the same. It's the same, you know, because they are all about the same thing. So it's the same consideration.
Yeah. Okay. What are Vietnam's needs in terms of medical device?
As I mentioned, those that cannot be produced locally. That means that are like high capital, high technology, intensive production that are like X-rays, scanning, and those kind of things.
Yeah.
That is the vast majority of the demand.
And what are the quality certificates are required to be able to export to medical equipment to Europe and to the US market?
Well, you should certify your products according to the standards of those countries. So you should meet the European Union requirements or the United States requirements for such products. That said, I don't think is something impossible to do. Okay. Also, it depends on the products that we are talking about, because like the local industry is already supplying to the US and to Europe, right?
Sure. And the Vietnamese population density is among the highest in the world. How can we create this business opportunity, since a lot of medical device or medical investor are facing difficulties in Vietnamese market? What is the incentive policy as expect from the Vietnamese government for the investor in this industry?
So first of all, I think that high density population is actually an advantage, not a disadvantage, first. Second, there are already incentives in the form of tax holidays, 4 years, 0% corporate income tax, 9 years at half corporate income tax. This is for healthcare providers, okay, that are hospital, clinics, etc. If you're talking about like manufacturing facilities, there are still incentives in the form of tax holidays, 2 + 4 in this case, or 4 + 9, depending on the industrial zones that you choose. If you invest outside of an industrial zone, you can have like a favorable corporate income tax rate if your products, your production meet the requirements to be classified as high technology business. Okay, this is true also if you invest inside of an industrial zone. And then there are also incentives for the import of machinery and for setting up your facility in the form like of 0% VAT and no custom duties when you import the machinery that is used in the production. Of course, should not be like second-handed. Okay, should be new or relatively new. And there are many incentives, to be honest. Maybe it's not enough, and I can agree on that. But I think that is not the main issue. The main issue are not incentives. The main issue is not the cost of labor. The main issue is that, as I mentioned, for certain kind of businesses, it just takes so much time to have a return on investment.
Let's get back to the regulatory barrier. Do you think that which are likely the most difficult regulatory barrier for the coming year?
Well, mostly will be like to prove that you have a valid certificate, for example, in Europe, to commercialize your products, and for this certificate also to be applicable in Vietnam. As I mentioned, one of the breakthroughs of the VFTA is this kind of non-tariff barrier reduction. That means that the products that are already certified in a country don't need to undergo additional tests in the destination country. Okay. Still, there is no regulation on how to do that. So for now, that can be a bottleneck, to be honest, definitely. And overall, still the regulation, the legal framework is very complex and is ever evolving. So it means that there are some gray areas, and unfortunately, I have to say, if you are a foreign establishment, those gray areas rarely play in your favor. So it's really important to try to be compliant as much as possible, to have consistent documentation. But yeah, that can be costly, even like from a budget perspective, and also is time consuming. So yes, there are definitely barriers at entry to Vietnam. The barriers are mainly because the legal framework will take some time, and is normal to adapt to the new provision, for example, set and laid out in the AVFTA. It's physiologic, to be honest, but I think that hopefully in a short amount of time that there will be some breakthrough also in the local regulatory framework. I'm sure of that, because this is what's happening also in other fields that are not strictly related to medical devices. So I expect the same.
Yeah, Filippo, the last question. Could you briefly re-explain the procedure to import the medical device product in Vietnam, because we have received quite a number of participants to the webinar.
Yeah, so as I say, right now there are like transitional measures. Okay, so for example, in general, the procedure has 3 steps right now. Okay, traditionally, that is like classifying your products, registering your products, and then obtaining the import license. That said, right now, all the import licenses that are expiring, okay, usually the import license lasts 5 years for BCD, okay, those are automatically renewed, okay, until the end of 2021. Then, when 2022 kicks in theory, the import license will not be required anymore if your products are registered in Vietnam, okay? This means that once you complete the second step, you will receive the market authorization license. And in this case, you will be able to import your products in Vietnam, starting from 2022, because currently a long list of products still need the import license, right? So this is how it works. As far as like telling you, for example, what you need to register the products, that there is a very long list of documents that you should provide. So maybe I can send to the ones who asked by email. I mean, it's very simple. You can also look at the decree, and there is the list. So I can contact you, send you the list, but I think it's not really worth, because first you can check on the law directly. Is common knowledge, and secondly, the procedure might slightly change. As I mentioned before, the legal framework is not really ready yet for the implementation of the new provisions. So either it's likely that the import license will be renewed again, okay, even in 2022, or they will provide us with the instruments to better understand what to do. But right now, there isn't really much clarity.
Yeah, thank you. So to all the audience, and to first of all, we'd like to give a big thanks to our speaker today, Mr. Filippo Bortoletti from Dezan Shira, has been explaining to us all our question and introducing about an overview about the medical device industry in Vietnam. And I'm sure that we have many questions. After this webinar, we will send the presentation of Filippo to the email that you leave us on the registration part. And in case if you need any further question or any further inquiry, both ICHAM and Dezan Shira, we are more than glad to provide to you on the information and contact that we and services that we want, that we can have. And we also have the export launch, which is as I already mentioned for the beginning, that ICHAM is providing services for the B2B, especially in the pharmaceutical industry. We are organizing for the last 4 years a B2B platform to help the Italian and European and also non-European manufacturer to meet the most important buyer from all 9 countries in Asia. And if you have any question, please feel free to let us know, or to the contact directly of Filippo, and also to contact of ICHAM. And thank you very much for spending your time with us. And next week we're organizing also another webinars on the transfer pricing. So thank you again, and very looking forward to see you next time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Filippo, please, if you would like to share something with the audience.
Well, if you have any questions, as I say, you can contact me on my corporate email that is in the slides. I will be happy to reply. And in any case, I would like to thank you all for being online until now. I know maybe I tried not to be boring, but sometimes it happens. So I hope you enjoyed. And stay safe until the next time we will catch up again online, I guess.
Yes.
Bye.
Please stay safe. Goodbye, everybody.